The air in London that morning felt cold and heavy. Outside Westminster Abbey, a large crowd stood in silence, wrapped in coats, watching the road. They were waiting. No one really knew what they were waiting for. The newspapers had said it was just another royal event, a simple ceremony. But something about today felt different. People could sense it in their bones, a feeling of tension in the air. Something was going to happen. Suddenly, the long black royal car arrived. The crowd straightened. Many held their breath. The car door opened slowly, and out stepped Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge Kate. Her heels clicked softly on the ancient stone road. The sound echoed across the still morning. These stones had seen kings, queens, and great moments in history. Now they watched Kate. She stood tall, dressed in a simple but beautiful black dress. Her hands trembled slightly as she smoothed the fabric. Around her neck was a delicate string of pearls, a gift from Queen Elizabeth. Today, those pearls felt heavier than ever. For weeks, she had thought about this day, planned for it, and now, standing here, the weight of what she was about to do felt almost too much. Behind her, photographers raised their cameras. Their flashes popped like tiny fireworks. Inside the Abbey, hundreds of eyes would soon be watching her. Around the world, millions would be glued to their screens. She could feel that invisible gaze pressing on her. The large wooden doors of Westminster Abbey stood in front of her. Tall, dark, carved with stories from centuries past, Kate took a deep breath. Her heart pounded in her chest. Inside those doors, everything would change. Prince William appeared at her side. He wore his military dress uniform. Medals shining, gloves perfectly white. God. But his face showed a different story. His jaw was tight, his eyes full of worry. William had supported her from the start. Night after night, they had whispered about this moment in the quiet of their bedroom. But now that it was here, even he felt the fear of what might happen. They knew the risks. Royals did not break rules. Royals did not stand up and speak without permission. Today, Kate would do just that. Some would call it brave, others would call it dangerous. It could shake the royal family in ways no one could predict. Hand in hand, they walked forward. The grand doors opened slowly. Sound of the hinges seemed loud in the quiet morning. Inside the Abbey glowed with soft-colored light from the stained glass windows. The tall arches seemed to reach the sky. Every pew was filled. Members of Parliament, ambassadors, royal family, important guests from all over the Commonwealth. Cameras stood ready. Porters whispered notes. As Kate and William entered, a soft murmur passed through the crowd. Heads turned, whispers grew. People could feel something unusual was about to happen. Kate walked down the long aisle. Each step felt heavy, as if the floor was pulling her back. But she kept walking. Her breath came slower now, controlled. She had practiced this moment so many times, in front of mirrors, late at night, alone in the gardens. But now it was real. She reached her seat and sat gracefully. Round her, the royal family sat with perfect posture. The Queen sat at the front, her frame small but strong, her eyes sharp as ever, scanned the room with calm. She had seen countless ceremonies in her life, but not this one. Not today. William sat beside Kate. To the cameras, he looked calm, perfect. But Kate could feel the tension in his body, his fingers pressed tightly against his knees. He gave her a small glance. In his eyes, she saw love, pride, and deep fear. He knew what was coming. He knew this was the moment that could change everything. The Archbishop of Canterbury stepped forward and began the service. His voice rose through the great hall, echoing off the stone walls. Words about service, duty, charity, the usual. The crowd listened politely, but Kate heard none of it. Her mind was racing. Her heart pounded. The words she had written and memorized burned inside her. They were ready to come out. She thought of her children, of the life they wanted to give. Them, of the moments stolen by cameras, the holiday ruined by photographers hiding in the trees, the fear in her children's eyes. That was when she had made her choice. For too long, the pressure had built. The perfect photos. The endless gossip. The rules, always the rules. It had become a golden cage. It's beautiful on the outside, but inside, a prison. Today, she would break. Free. Kate's eyes drifted to the Queen. The elderly monarch sat straight, hands folded in her lap. Calm, wise, unknowing. Soon, that calm would be shattered. The Archbishop continued speaking, but Kate was counting the moments. Soon there would be a pause in the ceremony, a moment of silence. That was when she would stand, when she would speak. Her voice, shaking or strong, would carry through this ancient place, and nothing would be the same again. William leaned toward her just a little. His hand brushed hers. No words were needed. In that touch, he said, "I am here. I believe in you." Kate's heart swelled with emotion. Fear, love, determination, all tangled together. She knew this was the right thing to do. For herself, for her family, for the future. The Archbishop's voice slowed. The moment of reflection was near. All around, the abbey grew still. The cameras waited. The crowd waited. Even the air seemed to wait. Kate took a deep breath. The moment was here, and then slowly, steadily, she began to rise. A sound of soft movement broke the heavy silence. Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, was rising from her seat. At first, no one knew what to think. Royals did not stand during this part of the ceremony. The program was clear. There was no reason for her to move. But there she was, standing tall, her black dress flowing around her, the pearls at her neck glinting softly in the colored light, and the crowd heads began to turn. Small whispers floated through the grand hall. Prince Charles noticed first. His eyes narrowed in confusion. Princess Anne stared at Kate, her face stern. This was not part of the plan. At the front of the abbey, Queen Elizabeth turned her head. Her sharp eyes caught sight of Kate standing. The Queen's breath caught. Something was not right. Something was coming. Prince William sat frozen for a moment. He had known this was going to happen. But now, watching it unfold, he felt a surge of emotion. Pride, worry, fear. His hands gripped the edge of his seat. He wanted to rise, to stand beside his wife. But he knew this was her moment. She had to do this alone. Kate's heart pounded as she stepped forward. Her heels clicked softly on the ancient stones. Each step felt strange, as if she was moving through a dream. But this was real. The eyes of the world were on her, the Queen, the royal family, politicians, ambassadors, the press, millions watching on television. No one knew what she was about to say. She walked to the center aisle, the same place where she had once stood on her wedding day. The memory flashed through her mind, walking down this aisle in a white dress, full of hope. Now she stood here again, not as a young bride, but as a mother, a wife, a woman carrying a heavy truth. The Archbishop of Canterbury, standing at the altar, paused. His words faded. He stared at Kate with wide eyes. In all his years, he had never seen this, a royal stepping forward to speak without warning. The abbey was silent. The kind of silence that feels alive, holding its breath. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the faint sounds of London traffic seemed far away. The cameras zoomed in, catching every detail of Kate's face. Calm, yet determined. Kate turned slightly, her eyes finding William's. In that look, so much passed between them: love, fear, strength. William gave her the smallest of nods. He believed in her. He always had. Kate drew a breath. Her voice, when it came, was soft but clear. It rang out through the silent abbey. "I ask for your forgiveness for standing before you this way," she began. "But there are words I must speak. Words that cannot wait." The crowd leaned forward. The Queen's eyes fixed on her, unreadable. The royal family sat stiff, uncertain. The press cameras rolled, recording every moment. Kate continued. Her voice trembled slightly, but grew stronger with each word. "For years, my family and I have given our service to this country with love and duty. We have tried to follow the rules, to respect the ways of the crown, but there are times when silence does harm. When speaking is the only way to heal, William's chest ached with pride. She was doing it. She was standing there, strong and brave, despite the fear. He knew how hard this had been for her. The nights she had cried, the days she had doubted herself. But she was not backing down. Kate spoke of her children, of how the constant media attention had stolen their peace, how even simple joys playing in the park, walking on the beach, had been ruined by cameras and whispers, how her children now looked over their shoulders in fear. She spoke of the pressure, the endless judgment. Every outfit, every smile, every moment of motherhood watched, judged, picked apart, of how it had worn her down, day by day, year by year. For too long, Kate said softly, we have lived in a golden cage. A life beautiful on the outside, but trapped within. I stepped forward to ask not as a duchess, but as a mother. As a woman that we find a better way, a way to protect our children, a way to protect all families from this kind of harm. There were tears in many eyes now, even among the most hardened politicians, even among the press who had written so many of those stories. The truth in her words touched something deep. Kate's eyes found the Queen's. The older woman met her gaze. A long moment passed. Then the Queen gave the smallest of nods. Permission, understanding. William's heart swelled. He felt tears prick his own eyes. He had never loved her more than in this moment. The Abbey remained silent. Kate stood tall, her words hanging in the air. History was being written. No one would forget this day. Slowly, carefully, Kate stepped back. Her heart was racing. Her body trembled. But she had done it. The hardest part was over. She returned to her seat beside William. He took her hand in his, squeezing it tightly. In that touch, everything was said. I am proud of you. I love you. We will face whatever comes next together. The Archbishop, still stunned, gathered himself. Ceremony continued, but nothing was the same. A shift had happened. The room felt changed, and across the world and homes and hearts, people felt it too. The Abbey felt different now. The moment Kate sat down beside William, the room seemed to breathe again. But the air was no longer calm. It was full of whispers, questions, and emotions. No one knew what would happen next. Prince William held Kate's hand tightly. His palm was warm, steady. He could feel her trembling slightly. He looked at her with eyes full of love and pride. She had done it. She had spoken the truth, with courage and heart. He wanted to lean over and tell her how proud he was. But the ceremony was still going on. The cameras were still watching. So instead, he just held her hand, giving her strength through that simple touch. Around them, the royal family sat in silence. Their faces were careful, trained not to show emotions. But inside, many thoughts were swirling. Prince Charles looked thoughtful, his eyes fixed on the space where Kate had stood. Princess Anne sat very still, her lips pressed tightly together. Some members of the family looked worried, others looked angry. The Queen sat calm and composed. But her sharp eyes showed that her mind was working fast. The Archbishop, after a long pause, had returned to his speech. But his voice was not the same. The words sounded thin, like paper in the wind. Everyone in the Abbey, and everyone watching on screens around the world, knew that the day had already changed. No one could pretend it hadn't. Reporters in the media section scrambled. They whispered into their phones, typing fast. Headlines were already being written. Duchess speaks out. Kate's brave words. Shock in Westminster Abbey. Photographers checked their cameras, knowing that their pictures from today would be on front pages everywhere by morning. But for William and Kate, the outside noise didn't matter right now. They were lost in their own world. William's heart was full. He could hardly believe how brave his wife had been. He knew the battle she had fought inside herself for months. The nights when she had cried in his arms, the mornings when she had doubted her strength, the long talks where they had wondered, should she really do it? Could she face the weight of the crown and the press and public opinion? Now she had faced it, and she had stood tall. Kate sat quietly, her heart still racing. The soft pearls around her neck felt lighter now, as if a great weight had been lifted. She glanced at William, and he gave her the smallest smile filled with love, support, and deep pride. Her eyes misted, yet in this moment she knew she was not alone. Whatever came next, they would face it together. But even now, her mind was swirling with questions. What would the Queen say afterward? Would the family say behind closed doors? Would the press turn against her, or would the public understand? Would people support her call for change, or would they call it a scandal? For William, the worry was the same. His love for Kate was endless. He would stand by her side no matter what. But he knew the power of the press. He knew how quickly the mood could change. His biggest fear was not for himself, but for Kate and their children. They had asked for peace, for kindness. But would the world listen? Meanwhile, in the pews behind them, the whispers grew. People leaned toward each other, speaking in low voices. Foreign ambassadors looked at their aides, asking quietly what this might mean for the royal family. Members of Parliament glanced at each other with raised eyebrows. In homes across Britain, viewers sat glued to their screens. Many wiped tears from their eyes. Others shook their heads in disbelief. All of them knew they had just witnessed history. And yet, for all the emotions, no one really knew what would happen next. Kate's heart beat faster with that thought. She felt William squeeze her hand again, steady and sure. She turned slightly toward him. Their eyes met. No words were needed. In that look, she saw everything: his pride, his love, his promise. The Queen remained still at the front. Was calm, her hands folded. But her mind was working. She had spent more than 70 years on the throne. She had seen joy and tragedy, love and loss. But this was new. Never before had a senior royal stood up in such a way without warning, to speak words that shook the very image of the family. And yet the Queen also understood. She had watched Kate from the beginning. She had seen her work hard, serve with grace, raise her children with love. And now she saw not just a duchess but a strong woman, standing for her family. The ceremony moved toward its close. Hearts of everyone in the Abbey were elsewhere. They were thinking of Kate's words, of what they meant, of what would come next. William looked ahead, his jaw firm. He knew the hard part was not over. There would be phone calls, meetings, long talks behind palace walls. There would be headlines, both good and bad. But he also knew this: they would face it all together. Side by side, Kate sat a little straighter, drawing strength from William's presence. Her words had been spoken. The truth was out. Now the world would decide how to hear it, and high above, through the tall windows, the soft London sunlight streamed, enlightening the two of them, hand in hand. The car doors closed softly. The crowd outside Westminster Abbey was still buzzing with whispers. People clutched their phones, sending messages, posting photos, talking fast. Something historic had just happened. The Duchess of Cambridge had stood up, spoken from the heart, and left the royal world stunned. Inside the car, Kate sat beside William. The door shut out the noise for a moment, but inside her, the storm of feelings still raged. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap. William reached over and held them in his. His grip was strong, steady. He looked into her eyes. His gaze was full of love, full of pride. He didn't need to speak. Kate understood. He was proud of her. He admired her courage. Still, Kate's heart pounded. Was it too much? She whispered. Her voice was thin, unsure. The moment she had been brave for was over, but now the real battle would begin. The press, the family, the world. William shook his head gently. You were perfect, he said. You spoke the truth. No one could deny it, but they both knew the risks. Already reporters were racing back to their offices. News would spread fast around Britain, across the Commonwealth, all over the world. Some headlines would praise her. Others would call it a scandal. There would be debate. There would be anger. Yet Kate knew this was the right thing to do. For herself, for William, for their children. She could not live in silence any longer. Too much had been bottled inside. Constant cameras, the harsh words, the fear in her. Children's eyes, she had to speak. Still, she worried about the Queen. What would Her Majesty think? The Queen had nodded, yes, during Kate's speech, but that moment had passed. What would happen behind closed doors? Would she be angry? Would she understand? Kate glanced at William again. He gave her a soft smile. He could read her thoughts. As clearly as if she had spoken them. She knows, he said quietly. She saw the truth. You were brave. Kate leaned her head against William's shoulder. The warmth of him, the strength, helped to calm her heart. Across the city in Buckingham Palace, the phones were ringing. News had reached the palace staff. Aides were rushing in and out of rooms. Senior advisors whispered urgently. Even before Kate and William reached home, the family would already be talking. In homes all over the country, the scene was the same. People had seen Kate's speech on TVs, on phones, on tablets. Some were crying, some were cheering, some were shocked. But no one could ignore it. In the palace, the Queen sat quietly in her private sitting room. The television was off now. The room was filled with silence. The Queen sipped her tea slowly, her mind deep in thought. She had seen it all, the wars, the scandals, the changes in the world. At this moment was different. This had come from within the family, not from the outside. And yet, her heart was not angry. No. The Queen had watched Kate grow from a young bride into a strong mother and wife. She had seen the love between Kate and William, the care for their children. The Queen knew the pressures, the endless noise of the press, the hunger for scandal. She had lived through it herself. She sighed softly. Change was not easy, but sometimes change was needed. By the time Kate and William returned to their home, the phones were ringing there too. It's messages from friends, from palace aides, from family members. Kate sank onto the sofa, her body tired now. The weight of the day of her speech pressed on her. William brought her a cup of tea and sat beside her. Their children would be home soon. For now it was just the two of them. Quiet. Together, William wrapped an arm around her shoulders. No matter what happens next, he said softly, I'm with you. We'll face it together. Kate closed her eyes for a moment. The fear was still there, but so was something new. Relief. A small, warm light inside her. The truth was out. She had spoken. No more hiding, no more silence. The rest of the world was still turning. The headlines would come. Family would meet. The press would talk. But in this small moment, in this quiet room, Kate and William sat side by side. Stronger. Closer. Soon there would be calls with the Queen. Private talks. Perhaps tears. Perhaps anger. Perhaps understanding. The future was unknown. But one thing was clear today. History had changed. A duchess had stood for her family. A wife had stood with her husband. A mother had spoken for her children. And in homes across Britain and the world, people would remember that moment. The hush in the Abbey, the soft, clear voice, the courage. In her eyes, the road ahead would not be easy. But Kate and William would walk it together side by side, hand in hand. And whatever storms might come, they were ready.